Welcome back to another episode of Stripped by Sia, your podcast for strippers, sex workers, and all the fancy naked people in between. I am your host, Steph Sia, aka Kimchi on stage. Again, maybe I'll stop saying that because I don't think I'll be dancing on stage for very long. It's 2020. Yeah, I really think I'm almost done with that chapter in terms of sex work. So yeah, I guess at the time when this is being released, it'll be 2025. So I think I might be slowly done after that. But I have kind of moved over mostly online, obviously, because you guys know I have an OnlyFans. I'm an adult content creator. I'm a cam model exclusively on Streamate. So you can find me on there. You can find me in Sex Panther. I have some other big plans coming as well. So that's just a little bit about me. But obviously this show isn't about me, but I do have episodes if you're somehow curious about that kind of stuff. Lots of bonus episodes that are in the earlier seasons, which you can kind of listen to my story. But just long story short, I've been in the industry for over 10 years. I started off as a sugar baby. Did many years dancing and stripping, moving online to fetish work, content creation, and camming. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. And I have been doing this show, I guess, now for 5.5 years, which it's been a minute. There's been a large catalog of episodes. So if you're new here, there are lots of great topics for you to choose from and click around from. And if you're not aware, this show is all about destigmatizing sex work. And I do that by bringing different guests onto the show every single week, whether they're on-screen talent, they're an organization that helps, advocate for sex worker rights. We have producers, people behind the scenes, agencies, founders, you name it. I try to just, gather as many perspectives as I can so people can walk away from listening to the show with a more informed and educated approach, and also can help better humanize sex workers. So that is the premise of the show. Thanks for hanging around. We have a great episode coming out for you today, which, I actually am ashamed to say that I haven't spoken much about, but we're talking about men's health in the adult industry. We're talking about the male perspective. I haven't done an episode with a male porn star since season 1 or 2, really, really a long time ago. So I'm excited to kind of talk about the ins and outs of the industry. We're going to talk about the difference between shooting in Europe, shooting in North America, what those major differences are, what you can expect, breaking down, negative stereotypes when it comes to the male performer perspective with our esteemed guest. But you guys just got to hang on for 1 minute longer before I just want to quickly say hello to my Patreon subscribers. So hi, thank you so much for all of your support over the past few years. You guys have been loyal and been so great since season 4. I am just really, really want to say thank you because we're going to go into, what is it, our 4th year in Patreon. You guys have been around since season 4. And if you're curious what the Patreon's all about, it's our great community that's on there. You guys get access to the entire video exclusive, which is only found on Patreon currently. And you guys get the episodes way ahead before anyone else does publicly. So that, along with bonus episodes, anytime I guest lecture, I do any kind of in-person speeches at galas and stuff like that. That kind of content is now only found there. So you can go ahead and whip on over to patreon.com/strippedbysia, and you can kind of see the different tiers that we have there. We have tiers starting as low as $4 a month, so a price of a regular black coffee, maybe, depending on where you are, where you go. And there are, a couple tiers there. You can check it out, different perks you can get in each level. I will say a quick hello to some of the subscribers that are on the top tier. So I just want to say hi to Ruby from Victoria, Canada. We've got Reina listening all the way in from Sweden, Snoo all the way from Germany, Geyser, Eric Arajo. We've got Via York, fellow performer and big adult content creator from Seattle, Washington. We've also got Dan from Red Door Products, also based in Seattle as well. We've got McKenna King from Ottawa, Ontario, and Dale Flood, where I am at in Vancouver, Canada. So thank you guys for subscribing. Again, you know what the link is. I'll say it again, patreon.com/stripped by Sia. And last but not least, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. We'll plug all the things later on at the end of the episode. So if you fast forward here, it's usually the 5 minute mark. As I mentioned, we're talking about the male perspective in the adult industry, which I'm so excited to chat about because, as I mentioned, we have not talked about it too much. So I am excited to introduce to the audience. We have fellow performer Alex Charger joining me on the show today. Alex is an adult content creator. Yes, adult performer in the industry. He's been in the industry for about 2 years now, based in Budapest, Hungary. He is an American that is now transplanted over there. He shoots a lot in the European market. He's also a cam model, a live streamer, and does all the things. And I'm so excited to get to know him and for him to chat about all of his experience in the industry. So enough of me talking. Alex, please, yeah, welcome to the show. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. It's great. I haven't done a podcast also in a while, maybe years. So it's cool. Thank you for having me.
Excited to have you. We'll spill all the tea and all the beans today, as much as you feel comfortable sharing. Alex, I just gathered a bunch of facts that I found about you online. That's just what I found like on the internet. But I would love to give you the opportunity to kind of describe yourself or give yourself your own introduction in your own words and terms. So feel free to go ahead.
So yeah, you got it right. I am an American, also slash Spanish performer. My parents are from Spain. So I am a mix between the two. I was born in the US. Male performer for 2 years, like you said, and I've worked for big productions such as Vixen, Tushi, Private, Reality Kings, Rocco Siffredi, Wild Girls, Erica Lust, just to name a few productions. I also do my own content on all the platforms, OnlyFans, ManyVids. I also do live streaming on the campsites such as Chatterbait, Monga Cams, all those sites, Cam Soda. Yeah, I try to do as much as possible. I'm trying to get more into the live content, like I was telling you before. I feel that um, if you're gonna, no, if you're gonna do the content, why not also try to get on the live platforms? Because especially the adult sites, like um, if you're gonna make content, like these are where people are actually paying for content, like live content, and they might like you so much that they might also go into your other site. So I try to do as much as possible in that, and yeah, eventually maybe I'll get into the music industry. So we'll see about that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to chat about that and like near the end of the episode too. But
Yeah, yeah.
you do a lot. You do a lot. You keep yourself busy. Your fans love you, which is amazing.
Yeah, 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 of course.
Alex, I kind of always love to start. I guess wherever your beginning is, everyone's always curious about like how did you get started in the industry? Why and like why did you decide to choose this as a profession? So feel free to start like wherever you feel is the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. The beginning. Well, I was born.
Some
Actually,
people do that though.
yeah, really.
Yeah, they really
No,
start at the beginning.
yeah, I would say that probably the beginning when I started really getting into it was when I left the military. I'm actually a military veteran, and when I had left, I was approached by some scouts to join the adult industry at that time, and I went to a photo shoot and I got the process started, but I never fully went through with it. I don't know, I was just out the military, and I wasn't really, I was sure about the industry with all the stigma behind it, and I was still young, and I was thinking to myself, if I do this now, what is my life going to be like after? Or is it going to stop me from getting other jobs if I wanted to do like something in the professional field? If I wanted to ever be like a doctor or a teacher or something, what kind of stigma would that be attached to my name? So I kind of put that on hold. And then I started traveling. I traveled the world. I've been to 40 countries, just backpacking around to Asia, to all Europe, South America, And then I met so many people. And as I was traveling, how I got into the industry was actually I met someone. I was in Mexico in Tulum. I was living there for a bit, and I met someone in the industry. Um, this woman in the industry, which was a content creator and performer here in Europe. And she just said, we met, we talked, we connected, we vibed. We actually shot some content together on the beach, which was really nice, beautiful. And she came back to Europe. I stayed in Mexico and kept in touch. She messaged me and said, hey, like, would you be interested in shooting professional with me? I'm not really into shooting with guys that I don't know, but I feel like we have a good chemistry. So if you come here, I can introduce you to people in the industry, to agencies, to producers, and we can shoot together. And that's basically how I got my feet in the door, as you can say.
That's amazing. What a great story. I mean, first of all, I'd love to start like back in the beginning when you initially got scouted. You know, was it just like some random person, random agency? I know actually a lot of people had that story about like, hey, I just DM'd this person on X on Twitter back in the day, or this person's a scout, and like I've been following him for a bit, and I just like when I was ready, I decided to go in that way. But tell us about that whole experience too, because like that does happen a lot, and a lot of people are just like, "Is this a scam? Is it real?" Like,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
what was your experience with that?
Yeah, well, actually, I think what it was, now that I think about it, I think it was actually me looking for work for like modeling work. I think I was on Craigslist at the time, and I don't know if you know Craigslist. Yeah. Uh,
Yes, back in the day when we were still allowed to do that.
yeah, no, I was looking for like modeling work, and then I went, and then they told me, hey, actually, this is adult work, and actually, not only is it adult work, it's actually for gay porn. So at that time, he said, hey, like he was actually a lawyer. He had this office in Manhattan, and he's like, hey, like you can make really good money, like you have a nice body, you were in the military, I was super fit, I had just left, and I was working out every day. So I was like, okay, and I went to the photo shoot and I did the photos. And it's actually interesting because I mean that's what most guys think about the adult industry, that they think that in order to get into the industry, they're like, well, don't you have to do gay porn to get into as a male performer so that you can then
I have heard of that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's what many people think, that first you need to do gay porn, and then you'll be able to transition into boy girl scenes and
BG
stuff like that.
content.
Yeah, yeah, BG content. So yeah, so basically that's what happened. That's what the scout was. Basically, it was me going in for a modeling audition. And I think actually that's what even like women, like girls, when they go in, a lot of them go into thinking like, oh, this is probably a modeling gig, and I'm not gonna do any of this. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, actually, we want you to take your clothes off. Hey, actually, would you be okay with doing this, like having sex on camera? And it's like, I think that's how many
Right.
many girls get into, and that's my experience, my first experience, which I didn't pursue that at the time, but that's how, yeah,
Hmm.
that's what that was.
You were also mentioning too, like you were really thinking about the future in terms of like future consequences and how this would affect your future in terms of like, hey, if I did do this, what if I wanted to pivot into something else? Would this affect my career? And I think those are really valid questions you should be asking yourself before you enter the industry. So I'm glad that you're hearing that, you're saying that, because I hear too many times, people are just thinking about the here and now and the present and thinking about the money and things like very, very short term view. But it is really valid for you to think about, how, if I'm going to have kids, do I want to work with children later on in life? You're usually not allowed to do that if you've done adult work. And in terms of like, how will people see you? How will future employers treat you? I'd love to kind of go into that thought process with you, Alex, because I think it's worth a conversation to kind of chat about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this kind of like gets our feet wet into also the men's mental health side of things, because a lot of the times, we think about, adult sex work as from the women's perspective, from the female perspective, where it's stigmatized for women, but we also think that it's not also stigmatized for men, which it absolutely is. A lot of the times, you think many men that want to get into industry think like, oh, I'm going to be a guy, and it's going to be like, yeah, you're a guy and you're having sex with all these beautiful women. But you also don't realize that it's also a stigma for us if we decide to do it and then actually we change our mind and then we want to do some work with children or in the profession, any kind of industry, because they may say, wait, what, you were a sex worker. You never know. You might go into an office job, a marketing job, and the owner might be, devout Christian or someone very religious and is super opposed to this and is finds out, hey, actually, you were doing sex work and I don't want you working in my company. So, there's also the stigma that comes along with being a guy in the industry. And even when I was when I was in the industry and I would meet a girl and I would say, hey, like, oh, like, what do you do? And like, oh, and wouldn't be sure if I should say, hey, I'm a porn actor or I'm an adult actor. And, sometimes I wouldn't say, but I would just say, hey, you know what? Let me try, let me give it a shot. And I would say, hey, like, yeah, I do porn, I do adult work, and they would like their mood would change all of a sudden. It's like, oh, okay, and they would look at me weird, and so not only does it stigmatize women, but it also stigmatizes men and their relationship prospects. That's also usually something to take into account because I mean there are also a lot of women who are very religious or are also against this type of work, not just for women but also for men, which is a shame. But that's just the reality we live in, and this is why,
Reality.
yeah, this is why the taboos in the society that we live in stigmatizes this work. But this is why there's so few of us, and why some of us do can make a good amount of money doing it because so very few people are willing to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And like, we've had some episodes on like dating in terms of like the delicacy that it takes when you're dating a sex worker if you're not in the industry, because we do have all these like negative stereotypes kind of hovering over our head. The stigma is very very real, and I'm glad that you're able to bring up like your own experiences about that too. Like, I mean, can I ask the question in terms of like, has it really negatively affected your dating experience? Has that been your experience thus far
Uh,
when you reveal to people that you work in porn?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I was in Barcelona shooting a few days ago, and I was on my way back on a flight, and there was these two girls behind me, and they were speaking English, and I can hear by the accents that they were American. So I'm like, "Hey, are you American? Where are you from?" And they're like, "Yeah, we're here. We're studying on. We're like a semester abroad." And I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting." And they're like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And I say to them, "Oh yeah, I'm an actor, and I was here shooting something." And they're like, "Really? That's so interesting. Is anything I've seen before? What are you shooting?" And I told them that I'm a porn actor and I do adult work and it's really romantic and really cinematic work and it's very a nice aesthetic to it. And they're like, oh, okay, mm,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, okay. And like their energy shifted and their mood shifted, which it's absolutely fine. I kind of enjoy seeing the reaction from people, and it sometimes it's interesting because I'll tell guys that yeah, well, I'm a porn actor, and it's also mixed actually surprisingly that some guys also have the same reaction and they're like, oh, okay, which is surprising, and then. On the other half, they're
Yeah.
like, "Really? You're an actor? Like, how did you get started? Really? Like, what's it like? What do you do? Did I Oh my, and they're really interested about it. But
Excited.
yeah,
Yeah.
excited. And I think though some of the interest is one, they're excited, but two, the questions that follow are a lot of questions of they're asking me like, how did I get started? Because they're maybe interested in like, well, maybe I want to get started. Maybe I want to do porn one day. So a lot of these questions are like, what'd you do? Like, how did you get into the industry? And like, what did you do? And who did you meet? And is it hard? Is it exciting? And so many questions about the day-to-day life and of acting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's very real. And there's, a double standard that that happens with those reactions, and very, very gendered reactions as well. Like, I would kind of like expect men to be excited, to be like, oh my God, how did you get into this? Like, how can I also do this as well? And you mentioned earlier, like, not everyone can do this job. I'd love to hear in terms of like, what I know is like stereotypical male assumptions in terms of like, oh, it's like really easy to get into the industry. All you have to do is fuck people all day. But like, I'd love to hear like, what is your regular day to day, and like all the things that are, maybe not so shiny, maybe not so glamorized, because people think like, oh, you get hard and you just fuck people all day and you get a lot of money. That's usually a very simplified outlook in terms of like, that's not quite realistic and accurate for the realities of a male performer in the industry. So if you kind of wanted to go into that, I'd love to hear from that perspective.
Yeah, sure. I think there's a few questions in there. So basically, how do you get in, and what's it the struggles of the day to day and the performance of a male porn actor? So basically, yeah. So getting in the industry, it's completely different for a man and a woman because I mean, as a woman, they like if you're a woman, you basically are like if you contact an agency, they're gonna hire you for the most part. They want more women, right? But they don't want necessarily more men in the industry, so it's a lot harder. The barrier to entry is a lot harder to get into because and it has to do with your other part of your questions, which is the performance side. And that's part of also the men's mental health side. So getting into that. So it's easy to get in as not easy to say, but you're more likely to get in as a woman in the industry, and as a man, you're not likely to get into. Not because they're discriminating necessarily against men, but it's because the performance issue. As a male performer, you have different expectations going into the performance, going into the acting. Where when you go in as a woman, you basically go in, but as a man, you have to stay hard, right? And this is the issue that many men struggle with, even in their personal life. Even when they're behind closed doors and they meet their partner, I've heard a lot of men with these performance issues, erectile dysfunction, or some other things that they can't maintain an erection. So yeah, so maintaining an erection is kind of hard for some people. They have performance issues uh, in their personal life, so I assume that you would imagine that it would be much harder for someone to do it with a camera pointing at you and 3 to 8 or 10 people watching you, makeup artist, audio, cameraman, director. And not only are you supposed to perform and have sex, but there's cuts, there is opening up your position for the camera and having to do certain positions on demand, speed, and acting, and be aware of the lighting. And there's just so much going on in your mind while you're in a scene that is it almost kind of takes away from like the pleasure of it because when most people think most men think that about porn is that they're assuming that it's going to be the same feeling that they get when they're watching porn, right? When you're watching porn, you're either in a chair like this on your laptop or laying down on your bed on your phone watching porn and masturbating, and you're completely perfect. There's no one watching you. You have everything right there. But then in the scene, it's not it's not like that. You don't know if it's cold or it's hot, or you had a long night the day before, or you've had your fifth scene in a week, and then you have to perform here. So there's so many variables that come into this that's so different because yeah, many guys just think, oh my God, porn, it's gonna feel just so good, and the girl's gonna be amazing, and yeah, you don't even know. Also, one other thing, a very important thing that I forgot to mention is the other performer that you're there with. You don't know if you have chemistry with this person and if you're going to vibe with them or if they're having a good day or they're having a bad day or if they even want to be here or it's just so many things that yeah, that people don't think about in the industry. And as a male performer, my first day when I first started, I was told that it's the girl's job to bring in the fans to watch because the fans come to see the girl, but it's the male performer's job to control the scene, right? Um, yeah, no, I never thought I mean, I never thought it was my first day, and that was one of the best advices that I've ever gotten because as a girl, you're kind of there to look pretty, to show to the fans, like, oh my God, I'm this pretty girl and I'm here to fulfill your fantasies. And a lot of girls that are in the industry, they're pretty new. They haven't
Mm-hmm.
been there for years. And most girls, they go in and it's 6 months to a year and then they're gone, right?
Yes.
So you may have a girl
Yes.
that just is their first time or has only done a few scenes and she has no idea about like lighting, camera, angle, positions, like none of this stuff. So you're there as a male performer, you're there to control the scene, to position the girl in a certain way, open her up, and do certain things to her because she's there to basically look pretty and create this nice atmosphere of talking, moaning, and this good energy. But you're there to make sure she is there and looking her best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that definitely makes a good point too. And most people, I would say, never consider this stuff. This will never come into their brains at all. But I really like that you're able to share that perspective as well, because like it's such a rare thing for us to hear from, which is really refreshing. I mean, when you were going into this, obviously you were not thinking about this at all. You're not thinking about angles. You're not thinking about like how long I have to be like hard for. I know that like some common misconceptions we can kind of go over this during our conversation, but talking about, I've also heard like maybe it's for some agencies or maybe some producers or for some individual performers that they are made or maybe they're given the choice to take Viagra or Cialis or any kind of enhancing aid to keep yourself hard. Is that just a rumor? Is that a reality for some people, or what is your take on that?
So you said that the agencies, producers,
I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure, but this is a rumor that I've heard before too, or
mm,
maybe a stereotype that I've also heard too. That like you have to use Viagra, you have to use any kind of pills to help enhance your performance. Is that true?
no and yes. uh, So know that you don't have to take anything you don't want to. Actually, the industry is very, very good with making sure that the performers, the female and the male performers, are well taken care of, and are that the energy in the productions are very well, and everyone is at a good level. So when it comes to performance enhancers such as Viagra, Cialis, or anything else, you uh, productions never have any of this on site. Um, they don't offer you this. They don't. There's none of this. But there's always the expectations that you have to perform, whether you're doing naturally or you're doing with some kind of performance enhancing substance. So it's up to you. So if you can go into a scene and stay hard the whole scene and do well, that's great. No one is going to ask you anything. The issue that it is that many people can't do it. So, for example, I've done scenes where I don't take anything because the scenes are super easy, and there are scenes where I have taken Viagra, the sildenafil version of that. I've never taken Cialis. But yeah, most scenes I will take a pill or a half a pill of Viagra just so that I can have a good feeling. I think that's perfectly natural. And then not only that, but I don't know if a lot of people know this, but not so much in America, but in Europe, a lot of European performers are known for taking it up another to another level, where they actually take an injection. They take an injection and they actually take a needle and they inject their penis with a fluid that keeps their penis hard for a certain amount of hours without them having to, without it going down at all, whether they're uh, into the scene or not. So it's more common in Europe than it is in the US. But yeah, that's how a lot of and like you think like, wow, this male performer, he's so hard and he's able to stay hard the whole. How is this possible? And it's like I can never do that. And a lot of performers, a lot of especially top performers, take this injection. Yeah.
Interesting.
So
And
so
what
yeah,
is
this
in
is very
that like syringe? Like, is it similar to what you would find in like Viagra? Is like similar chemicals or something like
no,
that, or
no. I think actually
what is it?
this syringe was what they put in it was actually. well, from what I heard from a male performer in the US was that it was originally made for men who were like paralyzed or they
Oh,
couldn't perform,
what?
so it would allow them to stay hard and pleasure their wives. This was like years ago, I think like a decade. This is a really fairly new thing. But
Mm-hmm.
what some people take, it's called Papavlovin, um, or this other one called it's trimix. It's a mix of different chemicals, three different ingredients, which depending on the level of intensity can be really, really strong, and you should be really careful. But in order to get this, you need to consult a doctor and have a prescription made for you. But many performers that are like high level, like Brazzers and Vixen performers, a lot of them do take this. And I mean, what I was told by a very well-known performer was that the way he looks at this industry as a male performer is like for example, you don't look at a plumber and say and go into like a house and go into fix a pipe without your tool set, right? Without your tool bag. And as a performer, this is also the same thing. You don't go into a scene without your Viagra pill or without a backup. Just in case you're having an off day, you always have a backup. So because if you can't perform, there's no scene, right? They have to call another guy or they have to cancel the shoot. So everyone doesn't get paid from the makeup artist to the lighting to the cameraman to the other performer. So you as a male performer have to be aware of that. So if you're having an off day, if your Viagra for some reason is just not working, you can't maintain an erection, that's always the last resort. The issue is that a lot of male performers now are just automatically they reach for the injection and it's like, okay, we're ready to start the sex scene. Let me go to the bathroom, put the injection in, and then they're hard for 4, 5, 6 hours. And then yeah, so then as a male performer trying to get in without injecting, without using any of this injection that makes you hard, it becomes much harder because producers are now so used to someone, the male performers, being just hard all the time, even if they're not. But like
Mm.
if you're in a scene and you get soft, it's like, all right, cut. We gotta wait for you to get hard again and get stimulated. So, like I said before, like they don't offer you this. They don't say like, here's this bag or here's this injection. They don't touch that for I don't know, maybe for legal reasons or whatever. They don't want to
Mm-hmm.
have something bad happen to them.
Yeah.
But there's this expectation that now that so many performers do use this, that if you go in naturally and you don't maintain an erection all the time, I mean, if you stop for like a minute or two once or twice, okay. But if you're like having to stop for 5, 10 minutes to get an erection again, they're not
Mm-hmm.
going to call you back. And this is why
Mm.
they hire the same male porn stars time and time again. Like you see, like all these, they hire the same porn actors, the male porn actors, because they're tested. They know they're dependable. They can rely on them. So if they have a scene,
Reliable. Yeah.
yeah. So the reliability. So yeah.
Wow. I have questions. I have so many questions about that. So,
Okay.
like, okay, it'll be a loaded question. So, couple things here. Trying to like, I have no problem with people using Viagra. I think it's great. It's healthy. One comment is like, is this a very normalized thing in the industry? I know a lot of people, in terms of personal life, people would think that, oh my gosh, why do I have to use Viagra? Is there something wrong with me? Is there something wrong with my body? And that taking a toll on men's mental health is one comment I have. I'd love to hear your opinion on that. And also the other second question, you're talking about, the industry now, that baseline standard, the expectation is being moved because we have performance enhancing products. So I'm wondering what that does in terms of putting this immense amount of pressure on male performers to constantly be reliable on these products. That's kind of what I'm curious about in terms of like, is it much harder now? Is there more pressure? What goes in your mind when you're like, oh, now I have to take this again, like I'm always just reaching for it now.
Hmm.
So two big loaded questions. I'd just love to hear your opinion on that, Alex.
Yeah, yeah. I think with in the personal life, taking the Viagra, I think it's okay if you take it. I think taking it all the time, you should really reflect on why is it that you can't perform with your partner or whoever it is. I don't know if it's a one night stand, it could be different, but if you're with your partner and you're always reaching for the Viagra, I think that is okay at first if you're trying to just satisfy the person and have a good time. But if you're constantly reaching for that, you have to look at the not just the symptom, but what's the deeper cause of why you can't get erection. Are you really attracted to this person, or is it something with your health that maybe you should see a doctor, or is it the lifestyle, or even in terms of like pornography? My opinion on pornography is that pornography is entertainment, it's not education. And the issue is that with entertainment, you can abuse it so much where like anything can be abused. And if you do it too much, it can really hurt your physical and mental health. But in terms of like staying hard, I think that's an issue for many men because when you're watching porn, like I said in the beginning, like you're either sitting down in a comfy chair watching this like highly sensitive video with your headphones or whatever, or laying down on a bed, you're comfortable. But then when you're having actual sex, it's much more physically demanding. So I would tell people to like if you're having a lot of these issues where you can't maintain an erection, I would say to try to change your mindset and try to really be honest with yourself and your body is and try to maybe do it naturally where you can maintain an erection naturally and eat healthier. I read this book about how like a vegan plant-based diet, people men who are vegan actually have better erections and are more likely to um, yeah, have longer lasting erections and more blood and better blood pressure.
Mm.
But if you're not, then yeah, just check your diet, check your
Go to a
exercise,
doctor
and go
as
to a
well
doctor. Yeah,
because it
go
might
to
be
like see.
ED.
There's no shame in seeing a doctor for something like this, especially like if you want to satisfy your partner, whoever your partner, whatever gender your partner is, you want to satisfy
Yes.
them, and you don't want them to make them. You don't. You're taking the Viagra one because you want to get the pleasure, but also you don't want to make them feel that they're not good enough for you, which is probably not the case. You know, it's just you're having this physical thing. So that's the first part. I don't know if I answered that first
No,
part.
that's
Okay.
great. Yeah, I think that's awesome. I'd love to hear, yeah, from part two, which is completely different, but like talking about that, the benchmark keeps getting moved now at this point. And
Yeah.
if there's pressure, what that does for people mentally.
Yeah, I think as a male performer, because, for example, like if we talk about this within my male performing friends, is that like if a woman is not interested in the scene, like it's automatically they grab for the lube, right? Like if the woman is
Mm-hmm.
not wet, if she's not excited, if she has to have sex with this older or guy that she's not attracted to, whatever the reason she's not attracted to him, she's just like, all right, cut. I need lube. I need lube because I'm not like whatever, and that's perfectly acceptable. Like, oh, lube, like great. But now the guy, is it okay then if he's not into the girl or if he's having an off day to take these performance enhancers, whether it's a pill or whether it's an injection? And I think if it's okay for the woman to take the lube, then it should also be okay for the guy to take the injection. The issue is that as a performer, as a male performer, when so many of the male performers are taking this injection every time, then it also the baseline, like you said, it's like if you're not there all the time, then you know you're kind of left thinking like, oh, I need to reach for it. I think the
Mm-hmm.
way that it should be is that if you go in there, you give your shot, and if it's not working out, then you take a pill. If that pill's not working out, then you have these backups. The issue
Mm-hmm.
with that is that if you do go in and there's an issue, then you have to wait. The production team might not want to wait for you to
Oh,
get an erection. So
gotcha.
that's something that, yeah, I think that like you should, as a male performer, practice before. I mean, you maybe set up like a fake camera or something and see how would it be like if you're performing and you have to maintain an erection. So yeah, like I hear this from a lot from people who now do OnlyFans, who do content, and a lot
Mm-hmm.
of these guys are like, yeah, I'm a content creator. I do OnlyFans. I've done so many OnlyFans content. Then they go into a production and they can't perform. So just because
Mm.
you're able to hold your phone and film OnlyFans or film Pornhub on your phone and you're able to move how you want is not the same thing as like people watching you now and telling you, hey, I want you in this position in this way, faster, slower, da, 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 doing it like this. So it's completely different. And yeah.
So different. I mean, I don't know if this has been studied, and I don't know if you have the answer to this, but like with performance enhancing products, is there any kind of like long term consequences with that, especially if you're constantly relying on this or just reaching for it all the time? I'm not sure how much knowledge you have in that, but like if you have anything, I would love to hear from that.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about these things. These are constant things that we talk about with my other male performers. Uh, is that I don't know with like I mean Viagra was originally not invented for male performance, right? It was what some kind of high blood pressure or what was it originally made for? Something that has
Something
nothing
I
to
did
do
hear
with
about that.
yeah, it was the erection was was a side effect of the Viagra. So like they were offering these to men and men were having erections and they said, "Hey, we can use this as a erection, market it as a way for men to combat erectile dysfunction."
Hmm.
Um, but constantly taking it, for example, constantly injecting your dick with like a needle and putting a liquid in there to maintain it hard, like three, four, five, even 10 times a week for, you know, a year,
Wow.
2 years, 3 years. I mean, I know male performers who have injected their um, their dick for 5, 6 years, and I mean, they're still doing it. So I don't know if there's a negative to that, like in their future, but with their, I know in their personal life, actually, they do have performance issues actually in their personal life. So even though there are these
Hmm.
like male porn actors who do these amazing films, when they do it personally, sometimes they also go and they reach for that injection to have sex with their
Oh,
girlfriend or some girl they met or some girl that they're dating. So that also now stems into their personal life. So I've heard this
right.
happen too. But in terms of like long term, we've talked about it and we thought like, yeah, there must be some like negative health consequences of this. But reality, I mean, people don't. I mean, I know one person who is taking it and is not working as well. So what they do
Hmm.
is male performers they take a break for some time and then they get back in. But I don't know about the
Hmm.
scarring, constantly
Yeah.
injecting and the
Injection.
scarring, like
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So.
Curious about that.
Hi, it's Carly David, founder of PS Group, marketing agency for sex workers by sex workers. We're here to give you the tools you need to stand out. From slick websites to next level marketing strategies, we want to turn your fans into loyal customers. Our fees are project based, no commissions, no percentages. We believe you should keep the rewards of your hard work. So if you're serious about taking your brand to the next level, visit us at sexworkmarketing.com. Say hello. We'd love to talk to you.
I'd love to talk to you about talking about the physicality portion of it too, because I feel like a lot of people like, do I have to be obviously physically fit to be in this career? What is like a typical day in the life for you as a performer in terms of like keeping up with your physical health as well? Because we've talked a lot about mentalness, which I think is great, but also talking about the physicality portion of it as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that I mean for certain productions, I think it's better to be like physically. I mean, well, in terms of performance, obviously, yeah, you want to be physically fit and so that you can have good blood pressure and maintain a good performance. And also while you're doing the scene, I mean, it could be hot and you're sweating and you're tired and you're having to move a lot. So, um, yeah, being physically able to do these things. Now, looking physically aesthetic, it's a different issue. I mean, I think for the most part, the more physically attractive you are, the more likely you're able to work with more productions, especially ones that are more sensual, like let's say like a Vixen production or a private production or um, some of these other productions. But then like sometimes you may work for a different production that requires you to be younger looking or older looking, like if you want to do some Step Brother stuff. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
you should, have a certain look to you. You don't necessarily even need to hit the gym, I think, for those, because if you have this like step brother look where you're just like kind of maybe scrawny or whatever, you're just a regular dude, then it's perfectly fine. I think there's
Mm-hmm.
also this thing where they don't want performers to have a lot of tattoos.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, as a male performer, you can have tattoos and also women performers, but they prefer as minimal tattoos as possible. Even in today's market, they don't want too many tattoos. Yeah, because it just it distracts. I think distracts from the scene, maybe.
Mm. Yeah,
So yes, I
maybe.
mean you can have like there's some productions that are like old grandpas. They're having sex with like teen girls.
Right.
So
Depends on
yeah,
the narrative. Depends on the
yeah, it depends on
storyline.
definitely depends on the narrative. So I mean, I wouldn't if you want to be a male performer, I wouldn't let that discourage you how you look. I would always say that's just for you. But if you want to work for certain productions and you see that they have these kinds of male performers there, then obviously you want to look like that or somewhere close to that. So yeah.
Hmm.
But if you're
Yeah,
on
I
shooting
mean,
for like Brazzers or something where like they're just doing like these silly goofball videos and it's just funny, I don't think it really matters what you look like, so yeah.
gotcha. Gotcha. And I know that you mentioned, and we also talked about it too earlier in the episode, but you obviously shoot a lot in Europe, have also shot in the USA as well. Talking about like the different markets, I'd love for you to describe in your own words, like, is there a big difference between the American and European market? What are like more standard offerings that you would find yourself in terms of like you shooting in overseas versus in North America in that
Yeah,
context?
actually, when I was in the U.S. Shooting, a lot of people would tell me that, hey, oh, you were shooting in Europe, well, then you're gonna find it super easy shooting in the U.S. because it's way more relaxed. So I think coming from the European side, they're much more, it's much harder as a male performer to shoot in Europe, even though a lot of the productions are the same. I think from my experience, it just depends on who's producing the film. Um, and there's a huge difference in terms of like how famous you get. I mean, there's so many girls here in Europe who shoot for the same productions, like Nubiles, who shoot for Brazzers, Reality Kings, shoot for all these productions that are in the US, yet they're not as famous as the same girls or the same guys shooting in the US for some reason. And there's not as many performers also in Europe because, and the market is not as big because the way I look at it is that the US is like Europe in terms of size, but in terms of language and culture, it's completely different because everyone in the US speaks one language, right? English. But everyone in Europe, they speak like, 10 different languages. You're speaking French, you're speaking Spanish, you're speaking Portuguese, you're speaking German. So in that respect, where like you have a performer, she comes in, and she doesn't speak any English, right? Because she's Russian or she's French, and it's like harder to do the scene because there's no like actual acting. They have to
Communication.
yeah, there's no communication, and it's like the director doesn't speak French because they're
Oh my
whatever they
gosh.
are, or they don't speak German or they're German, all these things. So there's this language barrier where it's hard to like one, it's hard to act, and then on top of that, it's hard to tell the performer like, hey, I want you to do this when they don't speak the language. They don't even speak English.
Wow, I didn't even think
So
about that. I did not
yeah,
think about that at all. That's crazy.
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, even so many performers here, women performers who are getting more famous, and they still don't speak English, and it's like you need to learn your English because the U.S. is the largest consumer of porn. I mean, this is where people are consuming porn, and if you're not speaking English, one, you can't talk to your fans, and two, the scenes are not. You're going to keep saying the same thing. Oh, yeah, so good. Oh, ooh, ooh. Like there's no communication. That's why when you see a lot of these girls that are from the European, the acting, the quality is much different because American girls, English is your first language, so you can act and you can say, "Oh my God, you're so good. Your dick is so big or so nice and juicy. Fuck me so good." But as some German girls come in like, "Da, it's so good, daddy." Yeah, like
Uh,
their English is just
no,
like
it's
they just
limited. It's
they it's
restricted.
limited. because they can't, like, it's hard to act and then you're acting in not your native. You don't even know, you can't even speak in a normal conversation. So how are you gonna, have sex and then say something naturally in English? It's almost
That is
impossible.
challenging. I mean,
So
because
yeah.
you're bilingual, right? Like you speak English and Spanish, right?
Hmm.
So at least you'll be able to communicate with some directors there, with maybe Spanish speaking women that you shoot with, able to communicate in that way. But are you primarily shooting in English then, I guess, in Europe, rather than like any kind of Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, stuff like that?
Most productions that shoot here, so I'll give you like a little in depth of how porn works, how like major porn works. I'll give you this umbrella
Hmm.
thing, right? So you have like big productions, for example, like Brazzers, Reality Kings, Nubiles, like Brady, like all these productions, right?
Hmm.
When people think about getting into porn, they think about, oh my God, I have to contact Brazzers, or I need to contact like Nubile, I need to contact these like Vixen, these bigger productions, and like they're messaging like the production, like the companies themselves, not realizing that these companies aren't the ones shooting the actual porn. What they do is, for example, Brazzers, which is under the umbrella of like Pornhub, which is under some other umbrella, like bigger umbrellas, come right. So
Yeah.
when Brazzers wants, like, there's every scene that you've seen for Brazzers, Brazzers has a budget, right? They contact producers, right? To They say, hey, we need, let's say, 10 films this month. So they contact a producer, a director with a film crew, and they say, we need 10 films and done, and we have this is our budget per film. Can you get it done? They say, okay, yeah, we'll get it done for X amount of dollars. And the producers will go and find the actors, find the sets, and Brazzers will kind of give them like a screenplay, and they'll go
Mm.
and they'll do the scene, and they'll say, hey, actually, for like two or three scenes, we want, Molly Little, or we want some, Barbie Brill, or some girl that we really like in this scene. And the producer's like, okay, we'll have the girl, and they'll find her, they'll give her rate, they'll contact her, hey, what days are you available? And then usually the production that always gets jobs for Brazzers or for like Nubiles or like whatever, Vixen, they have their male performers already on, like, that they know they're going to use, or they have their backups, because for male actors, it doesn't really matter. What matters is like every new scene is the girl that's bringing in the fans, right? The male talent doesn't matter too much. All that matters is that they can perform, like I was saying in the beginning.
Right.
So when you want to get into the industry as a, like, say, as a woman actress, it's very easy because they're looking for new faces all the time. But as a
Right.
male performer, you don't want to contact these big industries. You want to contact um, the producers
Producers.
producing, yeah, or the agencies that where these producers will look for the talent. In the U.S.,
Mm.
there's so many agencies. There's Husi Models. There is
Right.
ATML. There's like, what else? There's a few others, like
There's a
four or five
lot.
others. There's a lot. There's a
There's a
lot,
lot, yeah.
and they also, some of them, like three or four of them, take male performers also. Um, so like, as a male performer, or even as a female performer, if you want to get in the industry, what you have to do is you have to talk to the agencies that, so when a production is shooting for this company, they're gonna, like, okay, what girls do you have available? They'll look, they'll see their rates, to see how much they charge, to see how good they are. They'll look through it, and then they'll pick which ones are available, and then they'll have them come on set and they shoot the scene, and that's how it's kind of done. So it's not
Hmm.
these bigger agencies. So when you talk about like US, and in terms of like US versus Europe, it's the same thing. Like Brazzers shoots also with European girls. So they have a production
Hmm.
team also in Europe, in certain countries in Europe, that Brazzers is like, hey, we want to shoot with this girl, or we need this kind of scene. Can you find us a girl? And then we'll approve her. So what they'll do is they'll give her a list of like, hey, there's these 10 girls that we found that are available in this month. Which one do you like? And they say, oh, we like this one, this one, this one. We prefer this one. This is our top one, but this is the girls. And they say, okay. And then they'll go back and forth and they'll find the girl, but they already have their guy. In Europe,
Hmm.
because there's really, in Europe, there's no age, there's one agency that takes guys,
Hmm.
in Prague. That's
Hmm.
Nikki Models. Um, But other than that, like as a male performer, you kind of have to do your own. You have to kind of contact the directors, contact the producers, and be good friends with them, and prove to yourself that you're able to perform as a
Wow.
performer. I don't know if that
That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a big process though too. And like it's very like I guess independent from what I'm gathering. Is that correct? Like
independent to who in what perspective.
independent that like you're actively looking for work, you're actively trying to maintain relationships with these producers, that kind of thing, as opposed to
Hmm.
work being handed to you. Um, if that makes
Right.
any
I mean,
sense.
if
If I'm
yeah, like if you yeah. As well, work is not handed to you if you're a male porn actor. If you're a female
yeah,
porn actor,
if you're female,
and you perform
different.
good. Yeah, but I mean, there's also like not just you don't just have it's not just about looks. Like as a female performer, you can be pretty, but if you go on set and you're not like friendly or you're not a certain
Performing.
way, like you're really not like it depends. I mean, if the fans like you and it translates to screen, then yeah, like as long as what they'll do is they'll test the girl and they say okay, and they'll post it on the website and if they get a lot of fans to like and they start buying, they start commenting on that girl, they're gonna hire you again. That's how you get repeat
Right.
performance as a girl. But as a male porn actor, yes, to some degree, like oh, like he's this guy, he has a nice dick, or he's attractive, or he has good energy, blah blah blah. But from the producer side, from the director side, the one who's gonna hire you, what they care about is that one, yeah, the bigger companies are okay with you, but that you can perform. Like if you could
Bottom
go in
line.
and prove to them that you can stay hard, maintain hardness, and not get the girls upset, don't say anything stupid to the girls, don't get them mad, don't do anything silly, then yeah, then you're good, you're golden as long as you can maintain erection. And that's why also people just they reach for that injection every time. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I mean, I know for this episode we've been obviously speaking a lot with, male and female perspectives. I can't even imagine how much more smaller that portion of the pie is for like trans performers, non-binary performers. Like how much smaller is that? And even like when you go into more specific niches like BBW and like larger performers and stuff too, that's not as conventional, and I'm saying this like
Hmm.
in quotations, like conventional beauty standards, how much more challenging and harder it would be within those niches.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, they've tried. I know some producers who were trying to get into the trans space. They were testing it out, but there's still
Hmm.
the stigma behind it. In terms of
Huge stigma still.
Yeah, in terms of BBW, I think it's actually opening up a lot more. Like you're seeing Vixen and Tushi being open to girls with more voluptuous women and
Hmm.
even guys. So like I think it's becoming more acceptable and people are actually liking it. They're liking to see like more like something to grab
Yeah,
onto, which is
of
amazing, which is
course.
great. Yeah, not just like the petite girls who are super skinny and super nice and cute, but also like real like not real and
Real
not to say that no
women though,
one's
like, but
not to say no one not to say that skinny girls aren't real women, like everyone's real
yeah.
women. But what I'm saying is that like you're not now limiting to someone based off their weights or their size because people actually like this, people actually want it,
Hmm.
and it's based off what the consumers want. And like what's that song, the rap song, big booty or something, big
Big
I
bitty
like
hose.
I like girls with big butts and cannot lie.
Oh, that
Or
would,
like,
yes, yeah.
like yeah, I mean it's been around for a while, but like we're still struggling with that. Um, yeah, in terms of what was the other question I was gonna
Well, just yeah,
uh
I'm just talking about the umbrella of like inclusivity in the industry because
inclusivity.
I mean that's challenging. I will not sugarcoat that. The industry is not great at being super inclusive for folks. They do really prefer boy girl content. That is like where a lot of the marketing lies, with that being at the top. I know that that's definitely a fact. And the way that they
Yeah,
market things too. I'd love to hear about like your perspective on.
I I think nowadays is I mean it's really switching up because I mean look at Kazumi for example, right? Like I had
I
a scene
love
with Kazumi.
Kazumi.
Yeah, and like she's not the typical like porn girl that you would think, but look at her. I mean, she's one of the most famous because her marketing is amazing, and she's shooting for Vixen. She's doing Tushi. She's doing like browsers, like all these crazy scenes, and she's giving her input to the production because she's very creative. She's very smart.
Hmm.
She's one of the like amazing most like she's very kind. I mean, and she's just has good energy all around. So I
Hmm.
think like a lot of girls can learn from someone like Kazumi because she is like the self, like she is the one pushing herself and doing things the proper way, and making the connections and being nice and doing all the right stuff in order to get where she's at. I mean, she's literally shot straight up um,
Hmm.
because she's willing to have that good energy. And I mean, sometimes you can have that good energy, but you just don't have that break, right? I mean, how many people
Yeah,
are like singing their shit, like talented people you see in the subway or in the streets that are amazing singers or like, and they never get a break. So it's not just that she's that, but she got this like nice break, and she's opening doors for a
for
lot of
her.
people, for her and for other performers as well. So I
Yeah,
think
I
that's
think it's really
amazing.
cool. I mean, I think what sets Kazumi apart is because like she actually worked marketing before before she got into porn, and then she's been doing like a lot of different things with like guerrilla marketing, going on YouTube, doing more mainstream things.
Hmm.
Her whole
She
thing of
does
like doing
everything.
podcasts, like yeah, she does a tons of things. So it's like really trying
But I mean,
to gain as much fans as you can in all avenues.
I mean, yeah, that's true, but you can't discount that. Like, like that's all true. But also, she's a great performer. She is like, I
Hmm.
had a scene with her. I had one of the hardest scenes, and one of the hardest things I've ever seen a female do was for hentai, for freeze, and it was three guys, me and two other guys, and her, and we were in this very nice production set with fake trees, and she was there kneeling down and on her knees were like, like rough terrain, and she was there. She had to stand still as three guys had sex with her and freeze and then pretend like and then unfreeze and come back to freeze, and it was
That's
like
hard.
it was super hard and super long, but she did it. She didn't complain, which is okay if you did, but she did it. She had a smile on her face and she got through it and it came out great. But this is the kind of attitude that the kind of like energy that brings her not just the marketing, but being able to perform and have this good energy. So it's not just like
Mhm.
one thing. I mean, you can be a good performer, but then you're not a good marketer, and then no one knows about you, right? So
You
you
gotta
could
be
be a
the
good
full
marketer, and
package.
yeah, she's the full package. So I mean,
I
there's
agree.
some girls who, yeah. So it just really depends. I mean, there are actors who are great who never get to be like, shine. They're great singers who have like American Idol, so many great singers, but none of them are famous, right? You have, so it really depends on luck, who you know, and just
Yeah.
putting yourself out there and keep
It's a
going.
lot of that. Like you have to do a lot of it on your own. And then like even talking about like we talked briefly about like, creating your own content and trying to get give access to your fans, and that accessibility I think is so important to be successful in this industry as well. I know that obviously you do a lot of content too. You're also camming on a bunch of sites too, but if you also want to go into that and like the work that it takes to maintain all the relationships with all your fans, like go off.
Yeah, yeah. I think nowadays for performers, especially for I mean like female performers, uh for any performer, it's a lot better because now as performers you have more control, more power because I mean back then there was no Twitter, there was no Instagram, there was no way like if something happened to you on set, it's not like a newspaper would write an article about you and say, "Hey, this happened on set," or this and that. But nowadays, productions are more careful about what goes on, and it's really a great environment to be in. It's a not super safe, but from my experience, it's been really nice, and from other performers, female and or male performers, it's been a great experience. In terms of like keeping in contact with your fans is also great because what you can do, the better you are, and the more you keep in contact with your fans, the more you can ask them, "Hey, like, did you watch my videos on Vixen? Can you like leave a good comment, like leave a nice review, tell them you want to see more of me?" Because that's what they see. Like, if people are
Hmm.
writing good stuff and leaving good reviews on the website, they're gonna be like, "Oh, this is a great performer. Like, let's have him back on," because they're bringing a lot of traffic to the site. Like, they look at that.
Yes.
Like, productions look at the analytics, like whether it's Wild Girls, whether it's New Bows, whether it's whatever production they're seeing. Like, okay, we hired this girl with this guy. How many people watched the video? How long did they watch it for? How this and that.
Yes.
So they're looking at all the analytics. So if someone just goes and just clicks on your videos and just watches it for like 5 seconds and leaves, they can see that. But if you're actually there and people are actually watching your video and seeing your content, they're gonna hire you again. And they're gonna want more and more of you. Doesn't matter like if they've had like 3 or 4 scenes. It doesn't matter. They'll hire you for 10 more scenes. If you're bringing in the fans, if you're bringing in the money, they're gonna hire you. So
Hmm.
so
Yeah,
yeah.
there's
So
so
now it's a
much.
great yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, there's so much more that is expected of you being in this industry to bring your own fans to the table, and really again bring that traffic in. I feel like
Yeah,
that is
definitely.
such a big essential part of being
Yeah,
a
I mean,
creator
it's
nowadays.
think of it like a movie. Like if you see a big, huge movie in the theaters, like why do you think they hire like Brad Pitt or whatever Angelina
Big
Jolie or whatever
stars.
actors? Because they bring in the people. Like, oh, who's there? I'm
Hmm.
gonna definitely go see it. So you have to think of like if you're an actor or an actress, or you want to get in the industry, or you want even want to make your own content. Like, who are you gonna shoot with, right? You want to shoot with someone who's gonna like if you shoot content with someone that's great, but are people going to actually buy the content, buy the videos? So you want to be selective on not selective. I mean, you can shoot with whoever you want, but if you want to get bigger and make more money, you have to shoot with people who are gonna bring in customers to buy the content. It's a business at the end of the day,
Yes.
and whether yeah,
Yes. That's so true, and it goes both ways. Like especially with collaborations nowadays, you bring your fans, that person brings their fans. That would hopefully bring both of you guys up. Have more fans coming in from both sides. So, yeah, at the end of the day,
yeah,
it's strategy, it's marketing, it's
strategy.
business.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and it's not a zero sum game, right? It's like there's like oh you think like oh if I bring in this girl or this guy, they might take my fans from me, and you shouldn't think of it like that. It's a
No.
collaboration. There's how many billions of people on the planet, how many new people turning 18 every day who are gonna watch porn. So it's it's like there's always going to be a new clientele of people or people who never even watch porn who might like say, hey, I'm gonna watch it, or hey, oh my God, I saw this one scene and I love this girl or I love this guy. I mean, I have fans that contact me. They're like, oh my God, I saw your scene for Vixen and wow, like it was so good. And like they message me on OnlyFans and they say like, wow, I really love your scenes. When are you gonna shoot a new scene? Or I had like for different productions, they're like, "Oh, I love your scene for Wild Girls," or on New Bows, it was so good the way you did that. You have such a nice cock, and oh my God, can you make this custom video for me, please? Like I've
Hmm.
been wanting this. It would make my day. So yeah, I think you look at the way you look at yourself is that in the way you're the product, right? You're selling yourself. You're the performer, right? So when you look at shooting for a production, you look at like the production is there to get some money, but a lot of it too is to bring you the spotlight and bring in fans for you to make your own content and be able to make more money off that eventually. So the
Of
more
course.
famous you get, the more it's like this balance of more fans for productions and more fans for your content. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it all goes around. I mean, this has been such a fantastic conversation. I know we covered a lot, but like, was there anything that we missed that you also want to mention before I let you go today?
Uh,
There's so much.
did anyone have any questions they wanted to ask me? Any like
I didn't get anything on my end, unless you got some on your
mhm.
end. I didn't see. But yeah.
Um yeah, I would say I mean going back, I don't know if I probably answered this, but in terms of like yeah, the male performer side that yeah, like just it's not it's it's different from like the fantasy. I mean, like when you look at
Mm-hmm.
a performer and a actor, they're regular people. Like I've met girls. Like I remember I was on set for this scene and this girl, and we had a scene together, boy girl anal scene, and I'm like, oh, so like, what do you do like outside of porn? Blah, blah. She's like, oh, I'm studying to be like a physicist, and like I'm
Mm-hmm.
studying like all these things, and I'm like, oh, that's amazing. Or this other person is studying to like be a financial stock trader or something like that. And then you have
Cool.
like people that come in from the industry that are from all different backgrounds, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think that's something to take into account. And also, as like from the male side, a lot of people are always looking at like the women and how when you stigmatize porn, it's like, oh man, look at these women that are being treated so bad. and what they have to go through, but they don't also look at like the male performers and the male side of like how hard it is for us and the mental health that we have to go in there. Also anxious. Like when I go into a scene, sometimes I'm like, hey, like, am I gonna perform? Is this gonna be a good scene? And am I gonna be able to maintain an erection? And it really like goes into your head a lot. So as a male performer, if you want to get into this industry, yeah, I mean, I would say like start by making your own content, doing solo,
Mm-hmm.
doing boy girl, doing what or boy boy or whatever you want to do. Um, but also realize that this is not production work. When you make your own content, it's a lot easier.
Yes.
So yeah, I would say when you start, if you wanted to start doing your own content to get into the industry, I would say treat your production, your content as like a production. Pretend like you have the camera set up, pretend people are looking at you, pretend you have to stop, and then, or, I mean, just stop and then just try to like change position in a certain way, take time and think about like what would happen on set and see if
Yeah.
you can still perform under these stressful environments. So definitely take that into
Yay.
account.
Definitely. I'm really glad that you were able to bring up a lot of these things that, like, we haven't talked about on the show, and to give us your personal perspective and your experience in the industry over the past couple of years. Lots of really great insight here, Alex. But before I let you go, where can we all find you?
Find me. You can find me at Instagram. I have two Instagrams because one of them was deleted because obviously Instagram is always deleting our accounts.
Yes.
One one is Alex Charger Dude, and the other one is Alex Charger Verified on Instagram. On Twitter, it's Alex underscore Charger underscore, and those are my main places you can find me. And then all of them, they all have my link in bio, so you can click on my link, see the productions I worked for, and yeah, check out my own content. So yeah.
Amazing. And of course, everyone listening, all of those links are in the show notes below. So if you haven't clicked, you haven't followed, you haven't done your homework, please do so. It'd be so great. I'm sure Alex would love to hear from you, or at least gain another fan or so. But your homework, everyone else listening at home, on my end, would be
Homework.
to rate the show 5 stars on Spotify, YouTube, watch
Absolutely.
on Apple, watch on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Where else are we at? You could follow on X, which is Stripped by Sia, on Instagram, second account as well, Stripped by Sia podcast on there. Lots of great clips and nuggets over there on those feeds. And if you yourself want to be on the show, you're more than welcome to contact me. My DMs are opened. We also have a nice little contact form on the website, strippedbysia.com. I do go over all of your talking points. I do go over in terms of developing an episode with you. I don't accept everyone. It's just so much more people pitching themselves, which I think is really great. But I'd love to bring unique perspectives on the shows, things that we haven't heard about, like this today, which has been super great. But I guess that's pretty much it for me. Again, if you enjoy listening, hit subscribe, and we'll catch everyone in for another episode next Sunday, dropping at midnight Pacific Standard Time. Alex, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your expertise with us on the show.
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me. And remember, comments, subscribe, share, do it all, because this is how we get the show to everybody.
Thank you so much. And yeah, listen to Alex. He knows what's up. You're listening to Stripped by Sia, hosted, produced, and edited by Steph Sia. Music by Ted D. Graphic design by Maria Bellanderama, and photography by Ian Dabrin.